Hi, so today's video is going to be on leverage buyouts, LBOs. Because this is quite a wide topic, we're going to make multiple videos on this. And today's video just serves as an introduction and sort of covering the basics, mechanics, and the basics of an LBO. So what is an LBO? An LBO is a financing technique for acquiring a company, also called a target. It's primarily funded with debt, leverage, and because of this, use a proportionally small amount of equity in the transaction. Why do you do an LBO? Because funding part of the acquisition of debt improves the returns to equity holders. As long as the after-tax cost of debt is lower than the unlevered cost of equity, you're generating this return. And investors will typically seek a financial return in the region of 15 to 25%, which is called the internal rate of return, or IRR. How is an LBO conducted? It's conducted by using the target's free cash flow to repay the interest and principal on the debt raised for the acquisition. And the quantity of debt that you can use and raise for the deal depends on the cash generation ability of the target. And as a general rule, the higher cash conversion of EBITDA, so the higher the percentage of free cash flow that you're able to generate from EBITDA, the more leverage is possible. Who conducts LBOs? LBOs are conducted by investors called financial sponsors, and they're really important players in the M&A market. Because if you read the news today, you'll see that about $2 trillion have been raised by financial sponsors to conduct LBOs. And if they're only using a small amount of equity for each deal and funding most of the acquisition with debt, you can imagine that a multiple of $2 trillion is going to be used for M&A deals, and this is really, really large. So they're really important players, and this is why it's really important to understand what an LBO is and how it works. And these financial sponsors seek to monetize investments in a defined time period, usually 3 to 5 years, and they exit their acquisition via a sale or via an IPO. And the sale could be either to a strategic buyer or to another financial sponsor. 3 main ways in which an LBO generates financial returns. The first is operational improvements. So if you grow the revenue of the company or you expand the margins, this is going to help you sell the company for more than you acquired it for. And so this is going to generate your returns. The second is net debt reductions. So imagine you buy the company for 20% equity and 80% debt, and then throughout the lifetime, so for 3 years, you reduce the amount of debt, and so you sell it, and at the time of the sale, instead of 20% equity, you've now got 40% of equity and 60% of debt. Obviously, you're going to generate a return because the percentage of equity is going to be larger, right? We're going to make another video which sort of uses an example to illustrate this, but this is like one of the main drivers behind an LBO's value creation, and this is sort of financial engineering. It's what it's referred to. And lastly, there's value arbitrage. So that would be selling the company for a higher multiple than you bought it for. But this is quite an aggressive assumption. And typically when you model an LBO, you don't assume this because you can't really assume that you're going to sell the company for a higher multiple than you bought it for. It's good when it occurs and you obviously try to make it happen, but it's just not a very solid assumption to make. So I hope that this gave you a good overview of LBOs and how they work as a sort of primer, and make sure to keep an eye out for the next videos on this topic. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment.